A lofty and stern massif, luring and commanding, the Bucegi Mountains in the Dâmbovița county combine, in a metaphor of paradise, various aspects of biology and geography on such a small surface. Made up mostly of limestone and gritstone conglomerates and located between Scropoasa Valley and Ialomița Valley, the tall mountain surrounds its smooth plateaus with overwhelming steep heights of over 1,000 meters, reigning over the Dâmbovița county. The poetry of the panorama timidly wriggles through the ripples of the Ialomița spring, which lies right beneath the Omul peak, and which has, throughout its course, created many gorges. The story of Dâmbovița county starts in the Bucegi Massif and continues to mirror in the Bolboci and Scropoasa accumulation lakes. But the Bucegi Mountains couldn't be what they are today without their impressive monuments. Babele, a limestone formation skillfully chiseled by the winds. And the Babele wouldn't be so wonderful without the piercing, chilling look of the Sfinx. In the Dâmbovița county, at the foot of the Lăptici mountain, travelers feast their eyes on the wild landscape of the botanical reserve Lăptici peat bog. Here, the 1 meter thick pit layer is crossed by several tricklings of water, many of them being formed at this level. Higher up, you find the Horoabei Canyon, known for its flower varieties. One of the most impressive landscapes is offered to us without restrictions by the Zămagi Gorges, the biggest reserve in the Dâmbovița county and in the whole of Bucegi Mountains. The scree on the mountains and the gorge walls, basking in the sunlight, is home to some of the most rare forms of vegetation in Romania. The preservation over the centuries of this island of vegetation was made possible by the local microclimate, sunlit limestone rocks, and shelter from the northeast current due to the brave position of the rocks. Not far away, the Tartars Gorges Natural Reserve smiles to the travellers going by with its beautiful landscapes of scores of protected plants. Apart from these interesting species, the reserve is of particular interest through the geologic and speleologic component. The serene and quiet Ialomița River flows down from the days of old onto the foot of the Omu Peak, and then, little by little, spreads its array of gorges. Spectacular through its dazzling steep cliffs, the Ialomița Gorges stand dignified and impressive. The hard rocks were defeated by time and water. In the Dâmbovița county, near the springs of the Ialomița River, overwhelmed by the height of the walls of naked rocks, lies the cave monastery compound. For 4 centuries, the buildings which make up the compound have burned and were reborn just as strong. Located in the gorges, the cave opens up the gates of time to recreate bygone ages. Valuable due to its old age, and also due to an impressive collection of icons, the Viforuta Monastery, erected near the Dalu Monastery, overlooks and seemingly keeps vigil over the Târgoviște voivodal residence. Exterior painting reached its peak during the Brâncoveanu age, with the stone church from Doicești, which is the most beautifully decorated of the Brâncoveanu churches. And on the inside, a votive fresco depicting Constantin Brâncoveanu's whole family. Referred to by Nicolae Iorga as the Church of Peace between Brothers, the Stila Monastery was built as a sign of reconciliation between voivodes Vasile Lupu and Matei Basarab. Built in the Wallachian Byzantine style by the renowned scholar and politician Udriște Năsturel in 1653, the Târgului Church is striking due to the outer decoration, painted in anthropomorphic motifs, knights in fighting positions, reminding of the great battles to protect Christianity. Near the Târgoviște Archbishopric, there is the Crețulescu Church, with paintings by the great painter Cheile Tătarului. Erected by ruler Radu cel Mare in 1495, completed and blessed by Voivode Neagoe Basarab 25 years later, the Târgoviște Metropolitan Bishopric was pulled down and rebuilt in 1889, in the shape in which it dazzles us today. Erected in full Brâncoveanu age, almost 300 years ago, the wooden churches from Cobia, preserved by county council funding, are now a big tourist attraction. History and time have bestowed upon this land a genuine dowry for future generations. One of its most remarkable assets is the Princely Court National Compound, which lodges some of the vestiges of the past. The compound includes the Great Princely Church, In the church porch, there is a bell dating back from 1669, a gift from Romanian ruler Brâncoveanu, which wisely dreams of immortality. If you turn your eyes to the ruins of the palace, you can see the Tower of Chindia, standing tall, derelict but still mighty, erected in mid-15th century by the well-known voivode Vlad Țepeș, the son of Vlad Dracul, who gave rise to the legend of Count Dracula. The tower had multiple uses: fortifications, watchtower, storehouse for the treasure, and keep. From here, you can admire the ruins of the princely palace, refurbished through the restoration of vaults, floors, and by adding a loggia on the western side of the palace at the end of the 17th century. The palace was the residence of 33 Wallachian rulers. Documented in 1517, the St. Friday Church, also known as the Small Princely Church, instills a feeling of eternity into the travellers in search of peace of mind. On a hilltop near Târgoviște stands the Lacul Monastery, deemed one of the most beautiful pieces of Romanian architecture. It was built in the 15th century during the reign of Radu cel Mare, on the very spot where documents from 1431 mentioned a wooden church. The head of the great Romanian ruler, Mihai Viteazul, the first ruler to unify the three Romanian provinces, is buried here. One of his captains brought it here and carved the following in the tombstone. Here lies the honest and defunct head of the Christian Mihail, the great voivode, ruler of Wallachia, Transylvania and Moldavia. The monastery still possesses, from before World War I, a valuable collection of exhibits which recreates the history and role of the famous church. The Lacul Monastery has, throughout time, been a very important cultural center. The southern loggia gives you a splendid view of the town. For over 300 years, the town of Târgoviște, Dâmbovița county seat, was the capital of the historical province of Wallachia. Located on the right-hand bank of the slow-running Ialomița river, the town of Târgoviște, proud of its past, is moving closer by the day to reclaiming the place it once held in history. Stepping away from this time-frozen landscape, we move towards the Museum of Dâmbovița writers, where pre-modern generations of writers expressed their creed in writing. The home of writer Alexandru Brătescu Voinești houses collections of objects, documents, books, photos related to the work and life of these writers. A rare exhibit is Ion Heliade Rădulescu's Romanian grammar, dating back to 1828. The Printing Press and Old Romanian Books Museum is housed by the building belonging to the family Constantin Cantacuzino. The museum is a genuine and elegant proof that Târgoviște was the first printing center of the Romanian culture. A copy of the printing press of Monk Macarie can be found in the museum. The present-day History Museum tells visitors about the history of the Romanian people, from the Neolithic age up to 1918, with emphasis on the formation of the Wallachian feudal state and on the choice of Târgoviște as voivodal residence by ruler Mircea cel Bătrân. Opened as permanent exhibition in April 1970, the workshop house Gheorghe Petrașcu reminds those who set foot in it of the man who, through his painting, bonded with the peaceful patriarchic town of Târgoviște, which welcomed him so hospitably. Boasting 51 exhibits, oil canvases and graphic art, the museum reveals to the public the tremendous, dramatic struggle of the artist to wrench out the mystery of matter. Lodged in an old house with a porch, this late 18th century Romanian architectural gem, the workshop house Vasile Blenda houses a small part of the sculptures, monumental sculptures, paintings and drawings that define the personality of the artist so closely bound to the fortress of the Basarabs. In the village of Gura Vulcanei, in a big yard, there stands a commanding house, built in the early 20th century. Today, the workshop house of engraver Gabriel Popescu, which hosts an exhibition of engravings and drawings by this founder of modern Romanian engraving. In Pucioasa, on Spring Street, perhaps not a haphazard name, travelers with a propensity for ethnography can see in the Dobrescu House the Pucioasa Museum collection. The collection of ethnographic exhibits related to traditional occupations specific to the area comprises wooden and textile items and gives northern Dâmbovița a special touch. The Pietroșița Museum, housed in an architectural monument, the Șerban Popescu House, has on display a collection of historic and ethnographic items, of which the most impressive are the carpets, which have been the pride of the Pietroșița commune for hundreds of years. Four centuries ago, ruler Constantin Brâncoveanu erected the Boatload Palace in the Brâncovenesque style. The palace is the most precious gem of the Brâncovenesque architectural style. Inside, the three-storied palace still breathes the noble air of bygone times. The tourist potential of the Dâmbovița county is not only the array of civilization forms lodged between the walls, teeming with graceful centuries, but also the natural monuments, genuine outdoor museums. Regardless of the season, Dâmbovița County puts on the same amazing spectacle of nature. The natural and artificial ski slopes of the Dâmbovița County attract every year more and more winter sports aficionados. Reaching the mountain tops, whether it's climbing up the vertical walls or just hiking on mountain paths, means taking on some risks for the mountain aficionados. To help them, the County Council funds an elite rescue team, one of the best in Romania. Their bold actions have saved countless lives along the years. The unrivaled beauty of these places would perhaps lose some of its charm without the unparalleled hospitality of the people living here, on mountain tops, almost cut off from the rest of the world. In the sheepfold, where travelers are always welcomed with glee, you find authentic traditions and customs unaltered by the passing of time. Before the tourists' astonished eyes, shepherds prepare the famous cheese in fir tree bark. And the delicious hot maize porridge bowl filled with cheese. Dâmbovița generously instills upon the traveller the thrill of discovering history through the ruins, of the divine silence nestled behind the walls of a holy place, and last but not least, of a wild, unaltered, almost pure nature.